I am Audrey, and welcome to my channel, The Backstory and More. On this channel, you will find out what happened before each Sunday school lesson. Thank you, viewers and subscribers, for returning and viewing my videos. The Sunday school lesson for Sunday, September the 18th, 2022, is entitled Jacob Called Israel, based on Genesis chapter 32, verses 22 through 32. Also, I will share with you the answer to the question, why was Jacob's name changed to Israel? The agenda. I will share the backstory, read the lesson scripture, and offer a brief lesson summary. The backstory. Let's begin. Jacob's conflicts. The twins jostled with each other within Rebekah. Jacob came into the world grasping Esau's heel. Jacob schemed when he acquired Esau's birthright via a bowl of lentil stew. Later, Jacob, along with his mother Rebekah, tricked his father into giving Jacob the blessing set aside for Esau, the firstborn. Jacob's scheming destroyed his relationship with his brother Esau, who held a grudge and threatened to kill Jacob. Because Esau threatened to kill Jacob, Jacob fled to the house of his uncle Labon, his mother's brother. Genesis 28 and 5 states, and Isaac sent away Jacob, and he went to Padan Aram to Labon, son of Bethuel, the Syrian, the brother of Rebekah. Here, Jacob worked 7 years for his uncle to gain the hand of Laban's daughter, Rachel, in marriage. However, Laban required that Jacob first marry Leah, leading Jacob to another 7 years in service to marry Rachel. Jacob's conflicts with Labon. Initially, Jacob flourished during his time in Laban's land, but their relationship soured. Genesis chapter 31, verses 6 through 7 states, "You know that I've worked for your father with all my strength, yet your father has cheated me by changing my wages 10 times. However, God has not allowed him to harm me." In secrecy, Jacob and his wives took all they owned and left Laban's household. Later, Laban confronted Jacob, and the two agreed to a covenant to do no harm to each other, and the conflict subsided. Jacob's preparations to meet Esau. Jacob initiated contact by sending messengers to request that Esau look upon him favorably. Esau responded by saying he was coming to meet Jacob with 400 men. Jacob responded with fear and distress. He divided his camp, approached God in prayer, and prepared gifts for Esau. Today's lesson focuses on a mysterious struggle that defines Jacob in unimaginable ways. Jacob called Israel. Genesis chapter 32, verses 22 through 32. Key text. Then the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome." Genesis chapter 32, verse 28. Verse 22. That night, Jacob got up and took his 2 wives, his 2 female servants, and his 11 sons, and crossed the ford of the Jabbok. Verse 23. After he had sent them across the stream, He sent over all his possessions. Verse 24. So Jacob was left alone, and a man wrestled with him till daybreak. Verse 25. When the man saw that he could not overpower him, he touched the socket of Jacob's hip, so that his hip was wrenched as he wrestled with the man. Verse 26. Then the man said, "Let me go, for it is daybreak." But Jacob replied, "I will not let you go unless you bless me." Verse 27. The man asked him, "What is your name?" "Jacob," he answered. Verse 28. Then the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome." Verse 29. Jacob said, "Please tell me your name." But he replied, "Why do you ask my name?" Then he blessed him there. Verse 30. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, "It is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life was spared." Verse 31. The sun rose above him as he passed Peniel, and he was limping because of his hip. Verse 32. Therefore, to this day, the Israelites do not eat the tendon attached to the socket of the hip, because the socket of Jacob's hip was touched near the tendon. The question: why was Jacob's name changed to Israel? Then the man said, "Your name will no longer be Jacob, but Israel, because you have struggled with God and with humans and have overcome." A brief summary. On the night before he met Esau, Jacob sent his wives and sons over the ford of the Jabbok River. He remained on the northern bank. While there alone, Jacob wrestled with a man whom Jacob called God. Genesis chapter 32, verse 30. Jacob refused to let his opponent go without receiving God's blessings, even though his hip had been disabled in this supernatural all-night wrestling match. Toward daybreak, the man consented to bless Jacob and also renamed him. After this, Jacob was a changed man. The new name he was given through his mysterious encounter was Israel, which means Prince of God or God's contender. So, with the new name, a new blessing, and a limp, he crossed the small river to join his family and continue his journey. The name looked to a new future. The blessing gave him assurance of God's presence as he faced his brother, and the limp was a reminder of his struggle with the divine. Jacob called the place Peniel, since he had seen God face to face and yet lived. Jacob recognized the significance of the night's events. During the struggle, he encountered and saw God. Very few individuals could claim to see God face to face. However, this expression did not necessarily indicate a physical face to face interaction with God. Instead, the expression was an idiom to speak to the intimacy of the experience. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share my channel with others. Join me soon for the next backstory.